Buonasera, welcome back to our course of Italian for Beginners. This is lesson 26, lezione 26. I haven't published or posted any videos recently, so we're starting again. Just to let you know, if you are beginners, especially if you haven't done much Italian, it is better to follow this course, which is a playlist on my channel from lesson one, and then work your way up from there. There is a reason why they're called one and two and three, because they obviously become more and more complex. And so we start from the basics and then we add to it. And then we add the vocabulary and all the different rules and tenses. And in fact, today we are introducing a different tense. So far, in the first 25 lessons, we have used the present tense and to in any sentence. We've, as you can see, especially if you're new, and not only, we have talked about endings of masculine, feminine, how to do the plural, the singular, and many other things. Let me remind you that you are very welcome to suggest any topics. Obviously, any topic, obviously, I will publish it and add it to the playlist whenever it makes sense. So if it's too ahead of where we are now, I'll do it a little bit later, or I could add it on the channel anyway, if it's something a little bit separate from a beginner's course. So keep an eye also on my other videos on the channel, because some are for intermediate and advanced level. However, some are also good for complete beginners or beginners with a little bit more experience. So as I said, yes, feel free to make comments and ask any questions if something is not clear, or make suggestions or requests. And I will always post a video about the topic you're interested in. If it's a question that I can answer with a little I can reply to with a short answer, obviously I will do that in the comments. However, if it's something a little bit more complex and something that can benefit everyone or many, then I'll definitely post a video. So now, today, as I said, until now we've been using the present tense. So I'm going to introduce one past tense, which is called passato prossimo. Obviously, there are many. It's not obviously. I always say obviously, but it's not necessarily obvious all the time. There are different tenses that we can use for the past in English as well. For example, in English, you can say I was or I have been. I went or I have gone. So these are two only different tenses that we can use for the past. So today, as I said, we are going to see just a few verbs in a past, which is called passato prossimo, which translates, if you're interested in knowing a bit more, from the ground point of view, it translates two different tenses in English. One is the simple past, which is the example that I gave earlier, I went. And the other one is the present perfect, which is I have gone. So the passato prossimo in Italian translates these two verbs, these two tenses, sorry, in English. Most of the times I say most of the times without going into percentages. And however, as I said, this is just a little introduction with a very few verbs, just to give you an idea. And if you go On my, if you have a look, still on my channel, but through my other videos, which are not part of a playlist, just a mixture of videos with different topics, look, after you've watched this video today, and you feel a little bit you feel comfortable, and you want to know a bit more, so you can do it gradually. There are two videos on my channel that talk about and explain passato prossimo. There is one, and then there is a follow-up that goes a little bit more in depth. So starts with the easier one, which is the older, and then a more recent one will explain a little bit more about this tense. So gradually, as I said, have a look and experiment a little bit with the few verbs that we are going to see today, and then without waiting too long, go and watch the videos that explain the passato prossimo, because I am going to from now on, I am going to post or publish videos in this playlist of Italian for beginners, which will include also sentences in the past tense, in passato prossimo. So, so you don't feel, something happened and you were not warned about. Right, so let's see. Let me share this page that I've prepared. I say just a few examples. In general, so I've said which two tenses the passato prossimo translates from English: simple past and present perfect. Simple past is I did, I went, I was, I took, I came, I returned, I arrived. That is simple past, where there is just one word. And instead, the present perfect, the other tense from English into Italian, is I have done, I have been, I have gone, I have returned, etc. So the structure for in Italian of this tense is like the present perfect, meaning there are two words. There is the first one. Think about I have done, for example. I have done is the past, the present perfect by past tense of the verb to do. So if you can see, we have the verb to do, which is done in a past form. And then before that, we have the verb have, which in this case does not act as a verb with a meaning of to have, but it acts as an auxiliary. So it helps to construct this tense. So passato prossimo works exactly like present perfect. We have one verb which acts as an auxiliary, so helps to construct the tense. And then we have the past of the verb that we need to use in the past tense. Obviously, in a different form that we've seen so far, will be the form of a past tense, the passato prossimo, without going into too much terminology. A difference between looking at this page, difference between English and Italian is that the auxiliary, as we've seen in the example I've given you, I have done. In English, the auxiliary used is only to have. In Italian, the auxiliary used is the verb to be, essere, and also the verb to have, avere. So we're going to see some verbs that use the verb essere as auxiliary, and some verbs they use the verb have, avere, as auxiliary. For now, we're not going to go through the rules. It's just really an introduction, a quick introduction just to have an idea of mainly really how it looks like. And then for all the rules, because there is no point in repeating and basically posting exactly the same video, for all the rules, do watch both videos that I have on my channel, which are not included in the playlist of Italian for Beginners, obviously. It's in the other section of mixed videos. So in general, I said here we have the name of the tense, passato prossimo. And normally when we are looking at verbs, we always see the verbs divided into three groups, the groups in are, ere, ire. And then we can see the endings that we can add to these different groups of verbs. So for this verb, this tense, passato prossimo, the verbs in are will become atto, the verbs in ere will become uto, the verbs in ire will become ito. And let's see some examples which it will make a little bit more sense, obviously. In fact, let me just add, that's what I wanted to do. I'm going to add one in here, which I wanted to. So here we have from the verb andare, so in are, verb in are, as you can see, becomes atto. So andare, if you want to say I went or I have gone, you can say sono andato if you are a male, or sono andata if you are a female. The verb arrivare, verb in are again. You can see atto here. Again, if you want to say I arrived or I have arrived, you say sono arrivato or sono arrivata. We have a verb uscire, which is to go out, to exit. And so we said the ire becomes ito. So if you want to say I went out or I have gone out, you can say sono uscito for males, sono uscita for females. And tornare, another verb in are. Remember that most verbs really are in are and they are regular. So here, tornare, if you want to say, tornare is to return or to come back. If you want to say I returned or I have returned, you say sono tornato, masculine, and sono tornata, feminine. Here it was actually just another example of a verb in ire. So partire, to leave, to depart. If you want to say I left, I departed from a place. Sono partito, masculine. Sono partita, feminine. So these are, remember, these are all is the first person singular, io. So io sono andato, io sono andata. I said these are just for you to have an idea of how the passato prossimo looks like or works. So you can start making sentences and introducing these verbs in particular. And so using the things that you've the vocabulary that you know already, that you have already. So far, for example, you've said vado al cinema, and now you can, so I go to the cinema. Now you can say sono andato al cinema. I went to the cinema. So a lot many of the things that you have learned, now you can also use them in the past tense. As I said, it starts with these few verbs, and then watch the other videos, learn the rules, and start in introducing these tense with these endings in your conversation. Or if you are writing in whatever you use Italian for. And so this, as I said, these are a very small number of verbs that use the verb essere to be as auxiliary, unlike English, which uses instead the verb to have. In Italian, as I said, we can also use the verb to have, and there are rules. When do we use to be? When do we use to have? All this information, these rules will be explained in those two videos that I've mentioned earlier. So let's see some examples. These ones, they happen to be all irregular. So the endings are becoming ato, ere, uto, ire, ito are for regular verbs. However, we also have irregular verbs, as we've seen in the present tense. And in fact, let me just say now that the verbs that are irregular in the present are not necessarily irregular in the past, and vice versa. Which is, I don't know, sometimes it can be a good news, or otherwise, on the other hand, can be a bad news if it's irregular. Instead, then you have to learn a completely new ending, so just a new word, really. In fact, if we go up here, we come back here, andare, as you know, we've seen in the present tense is irregular. Vado, vai, va. It starts with a V. Instead, in passato prossimo is regular. Some verbs are really irregular in very few, by normally the usual suspects like essere, fare. They are irregular in all tenses. So let's see here. As I said, we have a verb of fare, to do, to make, ho fatto. Here, can you see we don't have the difference between masculine and feminine? That is a good news. So for those verbs where we need the auxiliary avere, to have, instead of essere, you don't have to worry about masculine or feminine, the agreement with the gender and number, things that, as I said, you'll see in those videos. So it's a little bit, it's a simpler when we're using avere. We have prendere. Prendere is to take, to catch, and which is regular in the present tense, however, irregular in passato prossimo. Ho preso. These are very useful verbs in the past tense. There are some verbs that we use more in the past than in the present. So start learning these ones, because they're very, very useful. You're going to use them a lot. And then mettere, to put, which is not very used in the present tense, but it is used more in the past. Ho messo, I put. In English, in fact, is irregular in the sense that does not change at all in the past. And then we have vedere, to see, which is regular in the present tense, but irregular in the past. Ho visto. In fact, a useful one as well that you're going to use a lot, it's used more in the past than in the present, is to say. Dire, to say, irregular in the present as well. Ho detto, I said, in the past tense. I'm talking about past tense in general, but this is one past tense in particular, as I said, passato prossimo. And just a little, because normally the two important verbs are always essere and avere, and in fact, they're important also because they can act as auxiliary. Let's see the past of essere, which is stato, stata. It is quite irregular because in this tense, passato prossimo, the verb essere is actually the same as verb stare. So stare and essere in this tense are exactly the same. I have been or I have stayed. It makes sense a little bit a bit more when you see the sentence. For example, I've been in a hotel but you can also say I have stayed in a hotel, very similar. So can be similar in many contexts. Um, Instead, let's add it in here. So from avere, to have, which is irregular, as you know very well in the present tense. Instead, is regular in passato prossimo because ere becomes uto. So ho avuto, I have had, or I had. This depends on the context, on when, which time we're talking about. So for now, as I said, I've given you general um, information about this tense, but do watch the other videos. It is very important if you know, if you want to learn it. This very brief video is not enough. It's just a taster, an introduction. So I trust you're going to watch the other videos that explain the tense much better and more in depth. And as I said, I will start introducing these or including these tense in the next lessons, which are still for beginners, but they're not anymore a complete beginner. Uh, in fact, if you think about it, if you go, if you do a course like in person with a tutor, for example, once a week, or a college, adult education, or any college, normally once a week, um, 25 lessons are almost 6 months, really, obviously a lot more in depth than we have done in this course for beginners. But it is more or less this is what you cover, the topics that you cover, but you'd learn obviously in person, in college, or in a class, or with a tutor. You learn a lot more. These are just really few examples, a little bit of help. So I hope this is to complement as well whatever you are doing separately from here. And so these are not enough. These videos really are not enough, really, to help you. And by the way, I think I did say I had said it before, but if you are interested in one-to-one tuition, let me know. Send me an email, or get in touch, and we can talk about some possible tuition. And it doesn't matter at which level you are, because we can start from the very, very beginning if you're a complete beginner, or intermediate, or advanced if you want conversation only. So yes, if you're interested, get in touch wherever you are, because it doesn't really matter. I work online, I use Zoom for my lessons, and so we can always find a time that works for both. Right, I leave you with it now, and I will see you on our next lesson, which will be 27, which is lezione 27. So, ciao, ci vediamo la prossima volta. Ciao.